19th chapter, we're only going to read one verse. That is the 4th verse. 1 Kings, the 19th chapter, beginning at verse number 4. Reading, teaching, and preaching from the New King James Version, it reads as follows. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and he came and sat down under a broom tree. Watch this. And he prayed that he might die. And said, "It is enough. Now, Lord, take my life, for I am no better than my fathers." Let's look back at the middle part of verse number 4. And he prayed that he might die. And he said, "It is enough." In other words, he said, "I can't take no more. Now, Lord, take my life, for I am no better than my fathers." Amen. If you will, quickly touch a neighbor and say, "Neighbor." Come on, you got to declare it. Say, "Neighbor. Hold on. God will." Come on, turn to another neighbor and declare it. Say, "Neighbor." Oh, come on, you need to declare that with authority. Somebody has some bad news this week. Neighbor, hold on. God will. Amen. You may be seated. 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 And he prayed. And he prayed that he might die. And he said, "It is enough. I can't take no more. I can't take no more. I've heard a lot of news this week. It is enough. I can't take no more. My pastor isn't here. One of my members have gone on. One of my deacons in the hospital bed. It is enough. I can't take no more. Hold on. God will. God will. God will." In March of 1991, during the mid-hours of the day, in a New York apartment complex located on 57th Street, Eric Clapton, a contemporary secular music artist within the Caucasian community, experienced the most horrific and terrifying moments of his life. It was on this day that Eric Clapton had to come to the gruesome realization that his 4-year-old son, Connor, has somehow fallen 53 floors to his death through an open window of a New York skyscraper. Eric Clapton reported that after discovering and accepting that his only son had died, he was left paralyzed mentally and emotionally. And so now for Eric Clapton, the tragedy is filled with regretful feelings of guilt about how reluctant a father he had been while his son was yet alive. But the hardest part for Eric Clapton was that after his son Connor had died, he had to face the reality of the end of something. He had to face the reality of the end of a dream that was just beginning. And so then, this musical artist, whose heart was literally torn into pieces, began to express his emotions through a song. The lyricist, being in the form of Eric Clapton, wrote in this manner. He said, "I just don't get it. I can't make the pieces fit. I might as well forget it, but my heart won't let me quit. You say it's only a part of life. That's right, but I get a little worried sometimes when I start to lose. I'm tired of holding it together. I'm about to blow another fuse. I'm at my breaking point." point. Amen. Many of us, like Eric Clapton, have found ourselves having to face the brutal and harsh realities of life. And so now I argue with the theory of the Greco-philosopher in that of Aristotle when he declared that the ideal man bears the accident of life with dignity and grace, making the best of all circumstances. I argue that because sometimes it's hard to find strength to move on after you have been emotionally and mentally drained. Sometimes it's hard to look forward to the future when you have been burdened down for so long. Sometimes it's hard to have a sense of stability when circumstances and issues have kept you unbalanced. Sometimes it's hard to breathe when situations and problems have literally sucked the very air out of you. I believe that Jordan Sparks had to be going through something when she sought advice, when she asked the question, tell me, how am I supposed to breathe with no air? And so now situations and circumstances will arise in our lives where it seems as if we are in a place of spiritual claustrophobia, where we will find it difficult to escape the brutal and the harsh realities of life. For life has a way of tossing you to and fro, so much so that you will need a spiritual GPS to determine whether or not you're coming or you're going. Life has a way of taking you on a historical roller coaster ride, so much so to that you would need, you don't know whether you're in or you're out. Life has a way of creating camouflage doors, so much so that you don't know whether you're up or you're down. For life is filled with heartaches. Life is filled with hardships. Life is filled with frustrations. Life is filled with disappointment. But if you can only find the courage to hold on, I'm here to let you know that God will. He may not come when you want him, but hold on, he'll be right on time. Weeping may endure for a night, but hold on, there's some joy that's going to come in the morning. Trouble in your way, you may have to cry sometime, but hold on, Jesus promised he'll fix it after a while. Somebody ought to touch your neighbor and declare, neighbor, hold on, God will. So now when we begin to dissect and examine this thing called life, in the practical we discover that life indeed is nowhere near fair. For after all the songs that we have sung, after all the prayers that we have prayed, after all the praises we have lifted up, we still find ourselves dealing with the troubles of life. I believe the violinist Alison Crosser had to experience difficulties that led her to write the song Pain of a Troubled Filled Life. And so now, Crossroad, you must understand this one pivotal concept, that trouble brings experience and experience brings wisdom. Let me say that again. Trouble brings experience and experience brings wisdom. And since God has brought you through some stuff, and since God has brought you through some troubles and experiences in the past, you should have the wisdom and knowledge to know that if God did it before, he can do it again. All you have to do in the time of trouble is just hold on. God will. For it is in the book of Job where we begin to comprehend that man that is born of a woman is of a few days, and those days are filled with trouble. However, based off experience in the book of Psalms, I have confidence in knowing that in the time of trouble, God will hide me. In the book of Peter, we are conscious of the fact that we may have to suffer some things. However, based off experience in the book of Romans, I have confidence knowing that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared to the glory which shall be revealed in us. In the book of 2 Corinthians, we are aware that we will go through persecutions. However, based off experience, in the book of Matthew, I have confidence in knowing that blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And let me just sum all of that up by quoting the Apostle Paul, where he declared all things work together God will, God will. In the time of trouble, hold on. When you can't find your way, hold on. When your world seems to be falling apart, hold on. And know that God will. He will. And so now we find ourselves in the perimeter of this text. We see the prophet Elijah has now come to his breaking point. In the Genesis of this 19th chapter of 1 Kings, the Bible informs us that Jezebel has issued an execution warrant towards the prophet. However, in this 4th verse, we see now the prophet is sitting up under a tree wishing death upon himself. You must understand, Crossroad, that this was a major contradiction. For you see, God had already promised and God had already destined him not to taste death. But now he flees from death on one hand and he seeks death on the other hand. Listen, there are about 20 of you that God has given a specific promise to a specific destiny. But now that you have come to the realization that not everybody likes you, you are now fleeing from what God has destined you to be. Listen, Crossroad, it doesn't matter who's trying to hinder you from your destiny. It doesn't matter who's trying to wipe you out. It doesn't matter what the naysayers say. It doesn't matter what the haters think. But if God has given you a specific promise to a specific destiny, no Jezebel in hell can hinder you for being confident of this very thing, that he who has begun a good work in you will complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. Just hold on, for God will. God will, God will, God will. God will. Hold on, hold on. Can't nobody stop you. And so now in this 4th chapter, we find